There are very few moments in Bruce Lee's life that still divide people the way this one does. Not because it was filmed, not because it was documented, but because almost everything we know about it comes from memory, and memory is unreliable. In December 1964, behind closed doors in a small kung fu school in Oakland, Bruce Lee fought a man most people today have only heard about in whispers. No audience, no cameras, no official record. Just a handful of witnesses standing against the walls, watching something they would later describe in completely different ways. Some would say Bruce dominated. Others would claim the fight was inconclusive. A few insisted it was stopped before it truly ended. But here's the strange part. Bruce Lee himself never tried to correct any of them. For a man known for honesty and brutal self-criticism, that silence was unusual, and it raises a question most documentaries avoid asking. What if the real secret of that fight wasn't who won, but why Bruce didn't want a clear story to exist at all? Because that afternoon didn't just test his skill, it exposed something far more dangerous, a limitation Bruce Lee couldn't ignore anymore. And the truth is, this fight didn't make him famous. It made him restless. But to understand why it happened, you have to look at what Bruce was doing that quietly terrified the traditional martial arts world just days before the fight ever began. Before we continue, if you love the stories of Bruce Lee and want to help keep his legacy alive, subscribe to this channel, like and share. By 1964, Bruce Lee was only 24, but he was already doing something most martial artists wouldn't dare attempt. He was breaking an unspoken rule that had existed for generations. He was teaching Kung Fu to anyone who wanted to learn. At the time, Chinese martial arts weren't just fighting systems, they were cultural inheritances. Many masters believed their knowledge should stay within the Chinese community, protected and preserved. Sharing it with outsiders wasn't just controversial, it was seen as disrespectful. Bruce didn't see it that way. He believed truth didn't belong to one culture. If a technique worked, it worked regardless of who practiced it. And inside his Oakland school, students of all backgrounds trained together, learning principles instead of rigid tradition. That alone would have made him unpopular. But Bruce went further. He questioned forms. He simplified techniques. He encouraged experimentation. To the elders in San Francisco's Chinatown, this wasn't innovation, it was rebellion. They watched quietly at first. Then came the warnings. Then came the pressure. And finally, the decision that something had to be done, not loudly, not publicly, but in the old way. A challenge. Not driven by hatred, but by preservation. A way to stop Bruce without turning it into a spectacle. If he lost, the problem disappeared. If he won, they would deal with that later. What they didn't realize was that Bruce wasn't preparing to defend tradition or destroy it. He was about to discover its limits. The man chosen to face Bruce Lee was not a bully, and he wasn't sent as punishment. He was chosen because he represented everything Bruce was challenging. Wong Jack Man was a respected practitioner of traditional Northern Kung Fu, disciplined, precise, known for his classical training and calm demeanor. Among his peers, he had a reputation for skill and honor, not ego. That mattered. If Bruce defeated someone reckless, it would prove nothing. But if he struggled against someone respected, the message would carry weight. Wong didn't rush into the challenge. He didn't insult Bruce or make threats. When he arrived in Oakland, he came with witnesses, dressed traditionally, speaking formally. This wasn't personal. It was cultural. To him, the fight wasn't about ego or dominance. It was about drawing a line, about seeing whether Bruce's new ideas could survive real pressure. And Bruce understood that immediately. There was no trash talk, no bravado, just two men acknowledging what was about to happen. When the terms were set, Bruce asked for time, not to recover, not to negotiate, but to prepare. What happened next is often overlooked. Bruce didn't train harder, he trained simpler, fewer techniques, more conditioning, less beauty, more efficiency. Because somewhere deep down, he already suspected something unsettling. That if this fight lasted longer than it should, the problem wouldn't be Wong Jack Man. It would be him. When Saturday afternoon arrived, the school felt different. The air was heavier, quieter, as if the room itself understood what was about to happen. Bruce arrived early, alone, and cleared the training space. No ceremony, no announcements, just preparation. He didn't invite an audience, but an audience came anyway. Wong Jackman arrived exactly on time, accompanied by several members of the traditional martial arts community. Older men, experienced eyes. They positioned themselves along the walls, silent and watchful. These weren't spectators, they were living proof, there to remember what happened. At the last moment, a few of Bruce's students appeared. They had heard whispers. Bruce hesitated, then allowed them inside. Balance mattered. If there were witnesses for one side, there would be witnesses for the other. The rules were spoken simply: no strikes to certain targets, no formal referee. Fight until one man could no longer continue. That vagueness mattered more than anyone realized. Because without strict structure, this wouldn't be a demonstration of style. It would be a test of reality. No applause, no countdown, just a single word to begin. The two men stepped forward. One carried centuries of tradition in his posture. The other carried questions he hadn't answered yet. And as they began to circle each other, everyone in the room understood something instinctively. Whatever happened next would not stay in that room, even if no one ever agreed on how to describe it. At first, the fight looked exactly like the elders expected it to. Wong Jackman moved with classical precision, balanced and composed. His stance was textbook, his techniques clean and controlled. He advanced carefully, testing distance, probing for reactions. To the trained eye, it was beautiful. Bruce Lee, meanwhile, did something that confused the witnesses. He retreated. He didn't rush. He didn't counter. He didn't try to dominate. Instead, he absorbed pressure, slipping attacks by inches, blocking just enough to stay safe. To some observers, it appeared that Wong was in control, forcing Bruce backward, dictating the pace. But Bruce's students noticed something different. Bruce wasn't retreating out of fear. He was collecting information. His eyes tracked every shift of weight, every tell before a strike. He wasn't fighting, yet he was learning. And that patience unsettled Wong more than aggression would have. As the seconds passed, Wong increased his tempo. Punches flowed into kicks, combinations layered on combinations. Still, Bruce stayed calm, efficient, conserving energy. To the traditional masters, this phase confirmed their belief. Bruce's approach looked incomplete, unrefined. But what they didn't realize was that Bruce had already identified the moment everything would change. And when it did, it wouldn't be gradual. It would be sudden. The shift happened so fast that some witnesses barely registered it. Wong launched another familiar attack, a straight punch he'd used successfully before. This time, Bruce didn't evade. He intercepted. Bruce trapped the arm mid-strike and closed the distance instantly. In that single movement, the fight changed from structured exchange to raw pressure. Bruce stepped inside Wong's guard and unleashed short, direct strikes, compact, explosive, relentless. There was no space now, no time to reset. Wong tried to move back, to re-establish distance, but Bruce followed him like a shadow. Every step Wong took was met with another interruption. Traditional techniques needed room to breathe. Bruce gave none. The elders shifted uneasily. This wasn't how challenge matches were supposed to unfold. There was no rhythm, no form to admire, only efficiency. Wong adjusted, circling laterally, throwing kicks to create separation. Bruce adapted instantly, cutting angles, shutting doors before they fully opened. It looked less like a duel and more like pressure being applied without pause. Minutes passed, breathing grew heavier. And for the first time, Wong Jackman faced a realization that training hadn't prepared him for. Technique meant nothing without space. And Bruce Lee was taking all of it away. What followed next pushed the fight beyond anything either man had planned and into something neither would ever forget. By the third minute, the fight no longer resembled anything formal. Wong Jackman understood he couldn't win at this range. Every attempt to create distance was a race before it existed. So he made a decision born from necessity, not tradition. He changed the fight. Dropping his level, Wong lunged forward, aiming to take Bruce off his feet. It wasn't elegant. It wasn't classical. It was survival. Bruce reacted instantly, spreading his weight and neutralizing the attempt before it could fully develop. The two collided, bodies straining, momentum colliding in a blur. When they separated, the room felt smaller. Wong moved now, not with confidence, but urgency. He circled faster, throwing wider strikes, using anything that might slow Bruce down. Some landed. None changed the outcome. Bruce followed, not recklessly, but deliberately. He cut angles, pressured constantly, refusing to let Wong recover. Furniture shifted, equipment was knocked aside. Witnesses pressed themselves tighter against the walls. This wasn't about style anymore. It was about endurance. And endurance favors efficiency. Wong's breathing grew heavier. His movements lost precision. The longer the fight continued, the clearer it became that something was slipping away from him, not just energy, but certainty. And then, just as the outcome seemed inevitable, a voice broke the tension. A senior master spoke from the wall. Enough. The room froze. The master stepped forward and declared that the point had been proven. No further damage was necessary. Tradition, honor, and dignity demanded the fight end now. Bruce stopped mid-motion. For a moment, it looked like the fight was over. Then Bruce spoke. No. The word cut through the room, sharper than any strike. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't show anger. He simply looked at Wong Jack Man and asked a single question: could he continue? Silence followed. Wong leaned against the wall, exhausted, marked, struggling to steady his breathing. Everyone expected him to accept the opening being offered, to let the elders close the story. Instead, he straightened. He nodded. Something shifted in the room. This was no longer tradition versus innovation. It was will versus will. Bruce waited, giving Wong time to stand properly, to face him with dignity. This is the moment that defines everything. Because Bruce didn't need to continue. He chose to. And if you're finding this story compelling so far, if you want more moments like this that shape legends, this is exactly what Bruce Lee's Secret Stories is about. Subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts below, because these aren't just fights, they're lessons. The fight resumed, and the ending would leave no room for interpretation. Wong attacked first in the final exchange, throwing everything he had left into a desperate forward strike. Bruce slipped it cleanly, trapped the arm, and swept Wong's legs from under him. The impact echoed through the room. Bruce followed him down, controlling the position, ready to finish it, but he didn't rush. He looked down and asked one final question: was this over? Wong didn't answer with words. He didn't need to. Resistance stopped. Some witnesses would later argue about whether Wong submitted verbally or simply gave up, but no one disagreed on the outcome. The fight had ended. Bruce stood slowly, chest rising and falling, sweat dripping to the floor. Wong remained down for a moment longer before being helped to his feet. No celebration followed, no victory pose, just silence. A senior master bowed to Bruce and acknowledged the result. But Bruce didn't bow back. Instead, he said something that stunned everyone present. He admitted the fight had taken too long, that his techniques weren't efficient enough, that if circumstances had been different weapons, multiple opponents, the outcome could have changed. In that moment, Bruce Lee didn't see victory. He saw flaws. And that realization mattered more than winning ever could. When the room finally emptied, nothing looked heroic. The floor was scuffed. Equipment was out of place. The energy that had filled the space minutes earlier had vanished. Bruce Lee stood alone, replaying the fight again and again, not with pride, but with dissatisfaction. To everyone else, it was a victory. To Bruce Lee, it was a warning. The fight had exposed a gap between what looked impressive and what actually worked. Forms had failed under pressure. Conditioning had mattered more than elegance. Simplicity had beaten tradition. And worst of all, the fight had lasted longer than Bruce believed a real confrontation ever should. That realization haunted him. In the weeks that followed, Bruce changed everything. He stripped techniques down to their essentials. He studied anatomy, biomechanics, boxing, fencing, anything that increased speed and efficiency. He stopped chasing style and started chasing truth. That truth became a philosophy, not a system, not a tradition. A way of thinking. Jeet Kune Do wasn't born from victory, it was born from dissatisfaction. From the refusal to accept good enough. From the understanding that the real enemy was never another man standing across from you, but the comfort of believing you've arrived. That 8-minute fight didn't make Bruce Lee a legend. It made him dangerous to stagnation. And that is the secret he never wanted the world to focus on, because once you understand it, you can never stop evolving. If this story changed the way you see Bruce Lee, or challenged how you think about growth, fighting, or self-improvement, subscribe to Bruce Lee Secret Stories. Like the video and leave a comment below. Do you think true mastery comes from winning, or from confronting your limits? More hidden moments are coming, and they only get deeper.